Alright folks, welcome back to Not Funny Guys Presents Red Dwarf Rewatch. I am your host, Dr. John, and we've done it. We've reached Series 13, or The Promised Land, and this is a one-shot 87-minute episode titled The Promised Land, directed by Doug Naylor, written by Doug Naylor and Richard Naylor, released on the 9th of April, 2020. And it's time, unfortunately, for us to say goodbye. Sad, yes. But let's break this down. So for this episode, we actually get kind of a backlog reminding us of how the cats came to be and all that stuff and how they left their own fleet. And then we're brought up to date with them, and we meet Rodon, who's apparently king of these feral cats. He's asking ridiculous questions as he basically tortures who will turn out to be Brother Soul. We'll talk about him in a minute here. A general knowledge question. He's interrupted. He's trying to suppress the whole teachings about Cloister or Lister. He's sending the arrested group of believers to basically be killed, and they have this little cat door to enter the thing. And they're even wearing cigarettes in their ears, and they're taking for their punishment when they get a hold of a laser pointer, distract the guards, and escape. And so we have Brother Soul, played by Tom Bennett, who I know basically as Rob from an episode of Midsummer Murders. We have Sister Luna, played by Mandy Dillon, and Sister Peanut, played by Brucey Perman. And so they then escape an escape pod or escape ship, and they set course to find their old home, Red Dwarf. So we now see Red Dwarf, and we go into our opening credits. And on the ship, we find Lister in kind of a disparaging state. He's walking around, getting drunk, singing Om, his little favorite song. Cat and Crichton come to confront him because he's basically becoming a hoarder. He's leaving a massive mess in the quarters. He calls them antiques. Crichton looks in a lot of ways like he's falling apart. Time is showing on him. And he's sort of thinking that a lot of this might be from the pressure that he's the last human alive. And so he has a really ridiculous plan. And let me finish. Cat have a sex change operation. Let me finish. So that Lister can then procreate. Let me finish. And they can have a kid. Let him finish. He keeps saying that. This is a massive no. He assures them the Meditech can be done. Lister is obviously a no, and the cat is actually more offended that Lister himself is not attracted to the cat. And they get into an argument about who would be the better woman. Ah, yes. Rimmer walks in all this, calls Crichton to follow him down the corridor. They finally make it to Beta Bay after, I think Crichton tries to duck out on him and keeps saying lie mode on, lie mode off. He can hear that. He then lets him know that there's something coming in on the scanner. It's either a ship or a missile. Crichton proceeds to stand around and look around. And Rimmer's like, what are you doing? I was like, well, if it's a missile, it's going to blow us up. If not, it's a ship. It turns out to be a ship. And they get a signal. They can't quite interpret it. They do enhance it and finally find out it's an SOA. It's those runaway cats. Rimmer doesn't want anything to do with any of this. So he orders Crichton to erase his memory. And this ends up being a whole hijinks thing. Because he knows Lister will try to help them. Eventually, they finally get it sorted out. Lister and Cat come in. They found in the junk Holly's spare disc. And it's a massive floppy disk. They install the Holly back on board. Does a dial-up modem for the disc. Welcome back, Norman Lovett, as Holly. But he's now Holly on his factory settings. So he does not really actually recognize Cat or Crichton as members of the crew. Rimmer's dead. And Lister, because of his time going into quarantine, has actually apparently defaulted his crew status. So now, apparently, Holly demonstrates his role as JMC appraiser, and that Red Dwarf is way past having any value left, and therefore must be decommissioned, and will have its nuclear drives dumped into a black hole along with Rimmer. So yeah, the quarantine basically forfeited his crew, so like I said, they're going to be decommissioned. They have 7 days to complete things. So Lister lures Cat and Rimmer into an airlock, and they proceed to do the same bit the crew did in 2001: A Space Odyssey when they were going off against Hal, but Hal read their lips when they were plotting against him. Except this time, apparently, they're broadcasting everything they said. They do hide their lips and what it looked like, but Holly heard everything. Intercom was still on. He knows about the planning, the sabotage, and they were going to use an EMP. Apparently, it was going to go off at noon. Crichton shows up mopping, and apparently he set the wrong time because Lister said 12 a.m., thinking that's noon. That's midnight. So now, as punishment, Holly's like, they've been shut up. They get shut out from the control room where they could detonate the EMP. They now only have 7 minutes, not 7 days. So they have to flee to try and catch up to the escaping cats using Starbug. This is when we learn that everybody else. So they jump ahead 3 months instead of days to catch up. And they encounter a ship, the Iron Star. They go to dock with it. It's built several hundred years after Red Dwarf, so they're assuming we got advanced tech. And it does. They find a hologram projection suite with really advanced tech. The ship can sustain multiple holograms using something called diamond light. Rimmer is very into this and immediately demands that they use it on him. And it means that he can now completely manipulate all things light. He doesn't want to wait for the test. He just jumps right in. He comes off versus soft light. We see him evolve through all his phases until he reaches like this superhero side with a deep voice, which means not only can he pass now as soft and hard light, he can also take objects with him through hard surfaces. And he can travel faster than light as an orb. He wants a new name. There's a lot of lame ones, but besides the Mighty Light. The power then cuts off and he returns to his normal self. Because they did no tests, the power surge burned out his light unit. And so now he has to be put on backup. And Crichton literally is like, look, I told you not this was doing. And then Rimmer puts Crichton on report for basically following his orders. Wonderful. Rimmer is forced to use extension cords now to get around the ship because he has to be plugged in at all time, otherwise he has mere moments. They're getting lost on this thing when they find a closet, and there are the cat refugees hiding in there. They immediately see Lister when the door opens and are hit with their religious devotions. Apparently, in the time since they left Red Dwarf, the ferals took over. They're more like the actual cat. They're selfish and vain. These cats apparently stole an Anubis stone, which apparently turns out to be varnished beetle dung. The sacred stone supposed to lead them to the promised land. The ferals, though, have followed them because they want the stone. Lister decides to play along with their beliefs in him. He desperately doesn't want to do it. Ship is boarded by the feral cats. Ronan, played by Ray Ferrand, and the feral king wants the stone. Ronan gets the stone for them and then orders that the crew all be flushed out in airlock. Forced to fight for their lives, what look like knockoff Wolverines from some of the cats who were his followers, they eventually pull out lasers to end the mess. Eventually, they find Rimmer, who got lost. Rodan orders the Iron Star destroy with meow missiles. They make a lovely sound. The crew manages to escape on Starbug with fugitives. They end up getting fire on the stern. They end up ejecting it in a moment of panic, only to realize they now can't fly the ship. And then they crash into the orbiting desert moon. While they're on the ground, they finally go through the owner's manual to figure out how to crash land as they're in the middle of crash lands. And apparently Crichton is figuring out all these wonderful features they've never used. They try to launch the parachute only to find out that the cat has removed it to make a jacket and mittens, the ones he's very much wearing. Thankfully, there's an emergency chute, and so they do land safely. Rodan, made aware of the crew's escape, go after them because they still have the Anubis stone. Well, actually, he has the Anubis stone. He finds out it's basically dung beetle, and so he's like, they must have the real one. The crew plans to find the debris from the Iron Star and see if they can recover tech to get himself off there. They want Crichton though to go tell the fugitives the truth about Lister. He can't do it. He keeps praising him. He comes back, he does it again. He can't do it. Admits he can't tell them things. He still praises Lister and they still believe. The cat goes there though. And the fugitives point out to him, did he not save Frankenstein? Did he not defy the authorities? And they end up converting him. That's absolutely fun. Finally, Rimmer steps forward to be the one to criticize Lister. Gives this great anecdote about a man surviving but losing his member, and apparently the dog saved it. Well, the dog ate it. And he apparently did excellent breaking bad news. As Rimmer is going to try and tell them, a piece of debris falls to the planet near them, and it nearly hits Starbug. But they manage to figure out that they can go electric and turn the thing into a hovercraft, and they follow the debris. They have to go into eco mode, and this means Rimmer goes into low power, which basically means he turns into a figure from a black and white movie. And all the other accessories. Rimmer then ends up having a full existential crisis after the cat says he's just a representation of a real person. He's just a computer program. And it finally hits him. In fact, he has this whole thing where he realizes because he doesn't challenge orders and he just does as he's told, he's no better than a computer program. He's not real anymore. Interestingly enough, the ferals do find them, start shooting. They approach a massive sandstorm, and then they go into hide. This is where Lister manages to somehow help Rimmer overcome his existential crisis by basically talking about him as being like the moon. I'm assuming, as it seems to go, it's a pale reflection, but it's still important. It still gets its light. And so now he thinks he's a moon, still in the black and white one. The storm ends up burying them in the sand about 7 feet under. And they end up using Crichton's little antenna with a little connected eye to go out and look around. Brother Soul comes in and asks about the next miracle. He's really excited for it. They then decide to use, Rimmer suggests they use a radio frequency through Crichton to contact Holly, back on Red Dwarf. Rimmer then orders him, tricks him rather, into uploading his backup, thinking it will grant him all kinds of new information. Rather, instead, it gives us a little bit of the old Holly back instead. So we watch him remember the crew and finally say, "What's happening, dudes?" Love it. He wants to use one of the nuclear mining torpedoes to blow up the moon. He thinks it'll help free them. It's really not safe, though. It's not a guarantee. He fires the torpedo. He already fired the torpedo, actually. He misses the first one. Then he fires again until he fixes the problem. This one hits, and Starbug is miraculously ejected from the moon into space. Brother Soul loves this new miracle. Holly is shocked they all survived. His plan worked. He's shocked. And then he brings Red Dwarf to come and get them. Once they get on board, they find that the feral cats have gone on board and that Holly forgot about them. Rodon wants the real Anubis stone. Lister comes clean to all of them. He was a chicken Vindaloo machine repairman, second to Rimmer. No miracles, just flukes. The cats sort of lose their faith. Find out that Cat, by the way, happens to be Rodon's younger brother. He looks older than him, and he's like, well, stress ages you. And originally, apparently, reveal the cat was one of the uncool ones they left behind. And apparently this is why he's been determined to be cool ever since. Cat refuses to join the ferals. Instead, he stays with the Red Dwarf crew, and Rodon's like, well, I'm going to blow you up and remove hope from these devotees of finding the quote-unquote promised land. Crichton battery dies, and Rimmer is about to lose power. They are going to be destroyed. However, Lister figures out that the Anubis stone, there's something inside of it being preserved. There is a real stone inside the dung beetle poop. There's a golden stone inside. He uses it to power back up Rimmer into the super version of himself, the diamond light version of himself again. This one manages to get the bomb, using his orb thing, locates the bomb, takes it off the thing, and they think he's dead for a brief moment, but he comes back. He survived. He's a superhero now. They get another Starbug, and they go after the ferals. They look like they're playing a game of chicken with him, but then Rimmer uses a laser pointer on his light and puts it on Rodon's chest, and his own followers attack him, and the ship crashes into an asteroid. They then plot a course, take the fugitives back to the fleet of cats. Lister then wants to use the Anubis stone to bring Crichton back because his battery died and he's dead. Rimmer is very reluctant to give this diamond light, but eventually does, and then he ends up basically making Crichton realize that I give my powers for you, you owe me. When the other fugitives get off the ship, Brother Soul, Brother Luna, and and Sister Peanut and Sister Luna, they get the line, Promised Land is not a land, but a place in your heart. It's not a physical place. But now, though, they worship Rimmer as their true savior. And that is where we reach the end of the episode. It was a lot of fun. I will say, as a Red Dwarf fan, they weren't kidding when I read the line that you will not be disappointed. It has all the little common throwbacks of things. Of course, we never really get an explanation for how they survived Series 8, but who cares? But we've now reached the end of the series. This is sad. It isn't necessary. All things come to an end. But as I've said in the past, we will not be done. But in about a week's time, we will move on to News Radio. So I'm going to take next week off, get ready for News Radio, and then we'll be back starting our run of News Radio 4 seasons, or as I like to say, the last time Joe Rogan and Andy Dick were funny. And Phil Hartman. Brilliant work. No complaints there. All-star cast. We will get into it, though, in about a week's time. In the meantime, please like, subscribe, share, comment, all that fun stuff. Help us spread the word. Help us engage with those people who like Red Dwarf. Love to see more. I plan on having us do more, as I've said in the past. But let me know what you'd like to see me do to continue some of this talk of Red Dwarf ranking, stuff like that. You can contact us with all our descriptions below. There's all our socials, but you can also write us directly at notfunnyguys.offthereels@gmail.com in the description below and in the ticker. Let me know some things you'd like to see, things that we can continue to kind of keep the Red Dwarf spirit alive, because I want to do some rankings. We might do some YouTube shorts. Who knows? We'll keep things going because it's too much fun. This is one of the greatest science fiction shows. In fact, there's an article I've been meaning, I teased it a long time back. I might make a separate video just dealing with it, because I found this interesting article talking about the deep influence of Red Dwarf on sci-fi in like the 90s and the aughts. I mean, it's been around since 1987, folks. It's had an impact in ways some of us have only just begun to learn about. But we got to keep that going. In the meantime, if you want to follow along with some of our other Not Funny Guys products, podcasts mainly, you can check out our main podcast, Not Funny Guys Presents Off the Reels, where we talk about movies, just like we talk about TV here. Right now, we're working our way through the theatrical Batman franchise. We've covered the original 1989 one, The Batman Returns. We've looked at Mask of the Phantasm, which was a theatrical release. And we just now you will be seeing very soon our coverage of Batman Forever as we move on through the things. We're about to get to the Christopher Nolan ones, which are ones I'm kind of excited for. If that's not your cup of tea, you can always check out Not Funny Guys Presents Wrestling with the Horror of It All, where my funny co-hosts Casey and Eric, they talk about wrestling, WWE, and horror movies. So check that out. And if that's not your cup of tea, you can always check out myself, Dr. John, and our Not Funny gal, Dr. Kristen, as we talk about things we are thinking about, intellectual stuff, academics, AI, culture, the whole lot. We run all over the place, but a little bit of a shorter format over on Not Funny Guys Thinking About Thinking. Check that out if it interests you. But in the meantime, remember, don't be a smeghead. One last time. Keep it not funny. And I'll see you next time. One more salute.